One is the glamorous and proud immortal maiden, while the other is the pure and lovely childhood sweetheart. And at this moment, they are actually fighting fiercely over a young man. Facing the fierce attacks from Moon Han, Immortal Maiden, Elegant Ling is not willing to show weakness either. She immediately adjusts herself and adopts a strong stance, advancing instead of retreating. Although Moon Han was very surprised by Elegant Ling's actions, he still charged ahead. Suddenly, a breaking sound rang out. A strong air current directly pulled the two people apart. Moon Han paused slightly. Whirling wind palm detonates spiritual energy before contact, then deliberately pushes oneself out. Indeed smart. The two women's figures intertwined and fought continuously. For a moment, it was really difficult to determine the outcome. The battle escalated. Elegant Ling formed hand seals, and spiritual energy rippled like waves. Faintly, there was a sound of thunder contained within. Moon Han smiled lightly. I saw her raise her left arm. She also used the thunder pattern technique. Just as the two were about to collide, Blue Autumn Yun rushed in between them. She grabbed their wrists with both hands. She pulled Elegant Ling into her arms and embraced her, gently pushing Moon Han away. She stopped the fight between the two. Moon Han didn't say much. The small refinement stage was enough to make her feel pressured. This made her even more curious about Blue Autumn Yun's strength. Seeing that time was no longer early, she briefly said a few words, and then returned to Cloud's ascending peak. That night, Elegant Ling tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. Clearly, he had been worried that the silly young man would never find a wife. But suddenly, a woman started interacting with him, which made herself incredibly jealous. The feeling is like working hard to grow radishes for over a decade, only to have someone else pull them out. She secretly resolved to get closer to Blue Autumn Yun. She was always on guard against any unscrupulous individuals appearing. Early the next morning, Elegant Ling changed her clothes and stood in front of Blue Autumn Yun. Her delicate and beautiful face instantly dispelled his drowsiness. Following Elegant Ling, he arrived at the square of cultivation sect to cultivate. Blue Autumn Yun helped and guided her intentionally or unintentionally. It's just since the two of them appeared, the other fellow disciples have been practicing half-heartedly. Many male cultivators occasionally glance at the pure and lovely young girl, feeling extremely envious and admiring, just as everyone was feeling melancholic. Suddenly, there was a commotion coming from behind. Is that the Moon Han Immortal Maiden? Even more beautiful than the rumors. My goodness. Am I really not dreaming? The crowd slowly dispersed to make way for Moon Han, staring straight at the goddess of the cultivation sect. Moon Han ignored everyone and headed straight for the edge of the square. Elegant Ling, on the other hand, quickly guarded Blue Autumn Yun with a vigilant look on her face. Moon Han quickly walked up to the two of them. She suddenly spoke. Blue Autumn Yun, last night, I stayed awake half the night pondering. Indeed, I am still very interested in you. Although I was very unhappy in my heart. But there was still a faint smile on my face. Blue Autumn, what do you think? This stunning immortal maiden actually said in front of everyone that she was interested in a new member of a cultivation sect. When these words were spoken, the entire square was in an uproar with hundreds of people. She is considered the goddess of the cultivation sect. It's surprising that she has fallen for this person. Elegant Ling also smiled faintly, quietly waiting for his response. Blue Autumn Yun's mouth twitched slightly. He felt that there must be something fishy about this. So he turned his head and asked Moon Han's senior sister what she was up to. Moon Han pointed indifferently to the side. There's nothing wrong with following me to that small grove for a chat. Seeing the anger on Elegant Ling's body, not decreasing but increasing, Blue Autumn Yun asked her to speak directly. Moon Han contemplated for a moment. I visited you without success last night. I want to try again now, is that okay? As soon as these words were spoken, all the male cultivators present felt their heads buzzing. The sound of cracking could be heard from their hearts. Holy cow, does Moon Han Immortal Maiden really want to sacrifice herself to him? Blue Autumn Yun couldn't stand it anymore. She immediately agreed to spar with her. He rolled up his sleeves as he spoke and took a step forward in front of Moon Han. Moon Han was slightly stunned. She took the initiative to lower her cultivation level to the same level. Blue Autumn Yun had already made up her mind the moment she agreed. If all she had to do was test her own strength, then so be it. After he suppressed all of his spiritual energy, Blue Autumn Yun tensed her body and threw a punch. Moon Han looked serious, treating her as an equal in the battle. Flames quickly ignited on her palm, rapidly solidifying with the infusion of spiritual energy. Transforming into one dagger after another, they shot towards the target. Blue Autumn Yun naturally had to put on a little show as well. Wind blades spread outward in the midst of changing handprints. Explosions of green smoke burst out when the two collided. At that moment, Moon Han's figure suddenly flashed in front of Blue Autumn Yun. He then unleashed a frenzy of attacks upon him, while Blue Autumn Yun continued to expand wind blades to intercept the attacks. At one point, Moon Han was forced to defend passively. Nevertheless, she was extremely excited. This junior brother had indeed mastered the wind control technique as rumored. At this moment, Moon Han kept swinging his wooden sword, continuously shattering the wind blades. He engaged in close combat with Blue Autumn Yun, and both sides fought fiercely. At this point, Moon Han became more and more excited as he fought. With your strength at the foundation stage, you should be able to handle it as well. He immediately launched an attack towards him after saying that. Immediately after, there came a sturdy sense of hitting in the hands. Blue Autumn Yun flew out like a kite with a broken string, fell heavily to the ground. Moon Han left everyone dumbfounded at the moment. It was just a gentle push without any bonus. It's impossible to hit at all. On the other hand, Blue Autumn Yun sat on the ground and gave her a thumbs up. Senior Sister Han is indeed amazing, I have lost. Moon Han stared at her hand, stunned in place. She never expected the battle to end like this. This newcomer from the cultivation sect is too mysterious. It even attracted the proud daughter of heaven to come challenge. But the man just wants to quietly flirt with girls. He spared no effort to prepare for this defeat. If he lost directly, the woman would definitely not believe it. So he deliberately engaged in a back and forth with her, repeatedly testing the boundaries in a certain edge. After the battle ended, Elegant Ling hurried over and hugged Blue Autumn Yun. Moon Han, feeling apologetic, took out the advanced spiritual elixir Crystal Lotus Dew for healing external wounds. Then she turned around to leave. Before departing, she left a message. If there are any questions, you can find me at Cloud's Ascending Peak. I will take full responsibility. After returning, Elegant Ling cooked chicken soup to nourish his body. When thinking of Blue Autumn Yun being injured, she really didn't feel good. In the following days, Elegant Ling has been diligently studying the fragmented technique. Ariel Mu was also very surprised that Elegant Ling could resist the temptation of the nourishing spirit technique. She was deeply touched. So she delved even more seriously into the nourishing cultivation method. Meanwhile, Blue Autumn Yun was once again persecuted, as little Elegant had to absorb his spiritual energy every day during practice. At this rate, I'm afraid his frail body will be scrapped in less than 2 days. That night, under the cover of darkness, Blue Autumn Yun arrived at a secluded place. After repeatedly confirming that there was no one around, he carefully set up a spiritual array around him. The mind power spread to the distant void land to communicate with the sacred beast bound by the soul covenant for summoning. Then, a beam of light connected the spiritual array with the dark clouds. The majestic and magnificent shadow of the spiritual beast gradually emerged. Dozens of thunderbolts roared one after another. In an instant, it was as bright as day. Just then, a petite figure walked out. A girl with a Lolita appearance blinked her big eyes as she stood there. Blue Autumn Yun was speechless. He clearly summoned the big boss. How did he end up with this useless character? He closed his eyes and formed hand seals, intending to send the person away again. The girl looked around and happened to meet Blue Autumn Yun's eyes as she turned around. Her eyes slowly widened, sparkling with bright light and surprise. Although the man didn't look like what she remembered her master to be, she still recognized him based on his scent. Shushu happily moved closer to Blue Autumn Yun. He asked where you have been all these days. Cultivation Sect and Little Master are also frantically searching everywhere. Blue Autumn Yun punched Shushu's face into a swollen mess. Going back is impossible. He will never go back in this lifetime. Soon he sat cross-legged and extended his arms. Let her help herself check her physical condition. Subtle greenish-blue ripples gradually emanated from the petite figure. The greenish-blue color spread to Blue Autumn Yun upon contact, wrapping both individuals. Intricate and complex vein-like patterns gradually appeared on his body. The subtle sounds from all parts of the body gradually amplified in Shushu's ears. In just a moment, he completely grasped all the conditions of the body. The most powerful immortal cultivation practitioner inadvertently underwent soul transmigration as a young man. But unexpectedly, this body was actually forced to have intercourse with a demon monster and died as a result. The body itself was already very weak, while the primordial spirit was exceptionally strong. In addition, there is constant occasional absorption through the contract. This only exacerbates the loss of vitality. Blue Autumn Yun had no choice but to summon the sacred beast. Shushu closed his eyes and slowly sensed his physical condition. Her brows furrowed, her expression became more serious. After pondering for a while, she slowly spoke up. "Are you a human or a ghost?" Blue Autumn Yun slapped her on the head and said, "I'm your big brother." Through Shushu's recent probing, she felt that this body was like an empty shell. There is not much vitality. It doesn't even seem alive at all. And the spiritual roots of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth that this body originally possessed were forcibly taken away. The yang energy inside the body has almost diminished completely. It can be concluded that it was forcibly taken away during sexual intercourse by a female monster. In theory, the body should have been completely scrapped. However, due to Blue Autumn Yun's soul transmigration primordial spirit, some vitality has been restored as if a withered tree has encountered spring. But recently, there is another strange power that is continuously draining life force. This has exacerbated the depletion of life. Blue Autumn Yun's expression is gradually becoming serious. It seems that a solution must be found. Just at this moment, Shushu suddenly bowed respectfully. Immediately patting his chest, he assured his master, "Don't worry, as long as I absorb her, it can alleviate the crisis for the time being." Blue Autumn Yun immediately threw a jade bottle from his arms to her. Then he waved his hand. He didn't want to use saliva to treat injuries. Let Shushu try another method. Shushu's originally serious face showed a hint of blush. This doesn't seem quite right. Blue Autumn Yun rolled up his sleeves to intimidate with force. "I have raised you for 5,000 years. Just because I am asking for a small favor, you dare to refuse?" Shushu blushed and fidgeted for a while. In the end, she agreed. There was a hint of determination in her eyes. Well, if she had to go, she would go. She seemed about to take action. Blue Autumn Yun almost jumped up in frustration. Grabbing and rubbing Shushu's small face, squeezing it continuously. "You dare to call yourself a sacred beast? Even sacred beast can be misunderstood," he scolded in a stern voice. "Who the hell said that the vermilion bird's bodily fluids are only that thing? Give me some blood." She put her fingers to her mouth and bit a hole, then carefully dripped it into the jade bottle. Then she handed it to the master. Shortly after, Blue Autumn Yun took out a scroll from her sleeve. "Let her write down the medicinal herb she needs." Shushu's fingers slid through the air a few times. The scroll immediately filled with densely packed words. After confirming there were no errors, Shushu rolled up the scroll, handed it back to Blue Autumn Yun. She cautiously said, "At the moment, Little Master has dispatched 10,000 cultivators to find you, and each one is equipped with a complete set of spiritual artifacts, claiming not to let go of a single inch. They want to see a person in life and a corpse in death." When this was said, Blue Autumn Yun shivered instantly. Holy cow, Does Little White have to be so stubborn? He followed Shushu's finger and looked up. There were indeed a few sword-empowered flight practitioners among the clouds. The formidable cultivator was looking around. He lowered his head, lost in thought. He was afraid that he would have to be even more careful in hiding his identity in the future. He was originally a new disciple who had just joined the sect, but unexpectedly awakened the double spiritual root of variation. Even though he had used all his strength to suppress his cultivation level, he still could not escape the recognition of the aptitude tree. The elders are determined to make him shine and bring glory to his ancestors. But he just wants to quietly flirt with girls. Since that day, the third elder witnessed Blue Autumn Yun's aptitude determination results. He decided to immediately return to the cultivation sect to inform them of this matter. At this moment, he has already gathered all the elders together. The conversation still seemed a bit heated. He thought it over and couldn't help but feel that they had underestimated this newcomer that day. Recently, Blue Autumn Yun not only learned the wind control technique, but also defeated Xiao Su by surpassing his level. Even tested to have level B aptitude. Through his outstanding performance, the third elder couldn't help but suspect that this kid may have already found a way to break through the constraints of the twin spiritual root variation. And the second elder expressed dissatisfaction with this. He believed that the wind control technique was originally suitable for those with wind element spiritual root to cultivate, and that the kid had just stumbled upon it by chance. As for his disciple Xiao Su who defeated him, it was completely due to that fool's carelessness. As for the spirit testing tree, it is only set up for ordinary disciples. There must be many deviations compared to the variation spiritual root. The third elder was left speechless by his words. Just then, Moonhan walked in. She quickly bowed to everyone. Recently, she encountered a barrier in her cultivation. Due to the lack of opportunities for a breakthrough, she decided to exit seclusion ahead of schedule. The sect master was overjoyed at the news. Presumably, she is on the verge of breaking through to the core formation middle stage. To achieve this level in just 2 years since joining. Truly worthy of being one's own disciple. The sect master suddenly felt refreshed. He immediately promised to provide whatever she needed. Moonhan did not hesitate at all. She immediately raised her request. She hoped that the sect master could bring Blue Autumn Yun to Cloud's ascending peak. After a brief exchange between the two, she could feel that he might be the strongest among the new disciples joining the sect. Such talents should not be wasted. Sect master helped her up. After all, the cultivation sect does not possess the method to deal with the restraint of dual variation spiritual root. He had to temporarily shelve this matter. With the cultivation sect's major examination approaching, he asked Moonhan to go back and prepare well. At the break of dawn, Blue Autumn Yun decided to immediately go back to find Elegant Ling. Upon entering, I saw the two of them moving things. Due to Ariel Mu receiving an urgent letter from senior sister Luo, she needs to rush over to help. After confirming that there were no issues with the luggage, Ariel Mu took out a storage ring and packed all the luggage into it. Just as she was about to leave, Little Elegant quickly reminded her that she forgot to take the money pouch. She also forgot the bellyband. Elegant Ling is somewhat speechless. She really isn't very reassured. So she suggested that Blue Autumn Yun go with her. Blue Autumn Yun did not oppose. Luling City is a transit city for the Merchant Association's trade. There must be some rare materials there. And Elegant Ling is on the verge of a breakthrough. So she decided to stay and continue to cultivate. The man summoned a sacred beast for treatment because his physical condition was too poor. In order to prevent the sacred beast from exposing its identity, he personally entered the world to search for herbs. The two of them rode on a spiritual beast and quickly arrived at the bustling Luling City Ariel Mu. As soon as they landed, she took him and ran forward. At the same time, a tall and slender-legged young woman paced back and forth at the city gate. Ariel Mu raised herself up on her tiptoes and waved when she saw senior sister Luo before pulling Blue Autumn Yun through the crowd. She first took the people to have fun in the city. She didn't bring them back to the Merchant Association until it was getting dark. Blue Autumn Yun didn't expect that the first senior sister turned out to be the young lady of Luo's Merchant Association. However, what really piques his curiosity is what happened in the first senior sister's family, that she hasn't returned to Verdant Mist Peak for so long. Aurelia Luo let out a soft sigh. Lulling City is surrounded by abundant spiritual energy. The land is fertile and produces a variety of medicinal herbs. Over the years, Mu Province capital has gradually become a well-known city for producing Dan pills, thanks to decades of accumulation. To promote local potion refining development, the city lord organizes Dan pills competitions, offering generous rewards to attract participation from major families. Their merchant association is only at a slightly above average level. There are no particularly strong alchemists, and they only maintain an attitude of watching the potion refining competition. However, a while ago, the old man's hidden injury recurred. The renowned physician in the city told her that she urgently needed the flame spiritual fruit to prepare the prescription. And this medicinal herb happens to be the prize in this potion refining competition. She had no choice but to ask Ariel Mu for help. Don't be fooled by her love for food. She is quite adept at controlling fire attributes with her fire element spiritual root. Although her cultivation is average, she has some knowledge in potion refining. Ariel Mu proudly took out her own storage ring. She searched inside carefully. As the smoke gradually dispersed, the clothing gradually became clearer. It was a bodysuit made of thin gauze with lace trim. The design was very bold. Just looking at it made one's imagination run wild unconsciously. She was so confident that she didn't even take a glance. Aurelia Luo turned her head away, unable to look straight at it. Is this the surprise that was intended for me? I have underwear, and I don't like this type either. Upon hearing this, Ariel Mu's eyes glanced upward. Her facial expression quickly changed. A frantic roar almost toppled the roof. She quickly hid the object. She blushed and huddled in the chair. Would you believe me if I said this is not mine? Aurelia Luo waved her hand and shook her head hastily. Meanwhile, Blue Autumn Yun silently gave a thumbs-up gesture of approval. I didn't expect that the usually quiet little senior sister actually has such a wild side in her heart. Ariel Mu trembled on the side. After hesitating for a moment, she chose to be more lenient. She was wearing it to shape her figure, she said as she pulled and stretched the clothes in front of the two, showing their elasticity. When this was said, both of them were stunned. Could it be that there is still more to Ariel Mu behind the scenes with such a massive amount? Little senior sister received an urgent letter from senior sister Luo. Without saying a word, she brought all her belongings to Lulling City. The next morning, Lin Luo, the steward of Luo's Merchant Association, came knocking on the door. He specially invited Ariel Mu to the backyard of the Merchant Association to prepare for potion refining. And Ariel Mu also got up early. She was well prepared. Yesterday's events were a bit embarrassing. Today I must reshape my image. I need to show off in front of everyone. Under the commands of the steward, all the household servants are busy moving things back and forth. The backyard was soon cleaned up spotlessly. Ariel Mu expressed satisfaction with it, and signaled Lin Luo to stop working. At the same time, Aurelia Luo also arrived at the backyard. She stood behind Ariel Mu with a smile. I've been watching you the past few days. Good luck. Ariel Mu quickly took out the jade box she had prepared long ago. She turned around and handed it to Aurelia Luo, which was the gift she had prepared. Yesterday was just an accident. Aurelia Luo carefully opened the jade box. A strong medicinal fragrance gushed out from the cracks. The entire backyard was instantly filled with a scent of Dan pills. Ariel Mu explained somewhat sheepishly that Verdant Mist Peak always performs poorly in the cultivation sex major competition. She thought of accumulating Dan pills to improve their score. So, in her spare time recently, she has been going to Dan refining. Now senior sister has encountered some trouble. She can only take it out in advance as a contingency. Lin Luo happily took the jade box. These Dan pills are enough to keep the merchant association running for a while. She gestured to the servants in the courtyard. Everyone understood and followed her out together. At this moment, Ariel Mu took out a worn-out alchemy cauldron from the storage ring. Blue Autumn Yun's eyes lit up instantly. She curiously examined the alchemy cauldron closely. Ariel Mu put on a robe that looked like an apron. Suddenly, a layer of crimson spiritual energy swiftly surrounded her body. Calmly and unhurriedly, she put various medicinal herbs into the alchemy cauldron. Even Aurelia Luo couldn't help but praise her. When Ariel Mu was refining potions, it was like a different person. The alchemy cauldron in front of him reached this level in just 5 years. Such talent and diligence. In terms of potion refining, there is no one in the cultivation sect who can compare to her peers. Just as the words fell, a loud bang echoed in the ears of everyone. Instantly, smoke scattered and filled the air. The furnace actually exploded. Ariel Mu walked out coughing and fanning the smoke, with a hint of black soot on her face. Aurelia Luo quickly stepped forward to express her concern. She had just praised junior brother so much. How did the furnace explode? Ariel Mu chuckled and pointed to the apron she was wearing. It was bought for her by the master, and has fireproof and heat-insulating effects. Then she quickly walked towards the alchemy cauldron, waiting for the familiar feeling to come. Ariel Mu continued to make the refining process very seriously. Ariel has undergone several baptisms in the crucible. Aurelia Luo was startled. How could it be getting more and more frequent? If the explosions continue, the courtyard may disappear. Aurelia Luo was afraid of being bombed and ran off to deal with merchant association affairs. Blue Autumn Yun is not afraid of explosions. His focus is on the alchemy cauldron. It can stay in little senior sister's hands for so long. This is definitely not an ordinary product. Just a second ago, she was praised for her outstanding talent. The next second, she began performing fancy furnace explosions. Little senior sister, you truly deserve it. After continuing to blast the furnace for half an hour, Ariel Mu finally entered a state. The refined herbs gradually turned into the shape of Dan pills. A moment later, a rich Dan pills fragrance emanated. The slightly warmed Dan pills fell into Ariel Mu's hands. Blue Autumn Yun took over the Dan pills, which had a shiny color and a rich texture. If Mu Province capital finds out that she, at her age, can refine high-quality Dan pills, they will definitely try every means to recruit her aggressively. Soon, Ariel Mu collected these Dan pills. It seems that Blue Autumn Yun is also showing some interest in potion refining. So they quickly searched in their storage ring. Before long, belly bands and silk stockings were flying everywhere as she tossed them around. Finally, she found a thick scroll. This was the complete guide to potion refining that Fourth Elder had given her. Blue Autumn Yun blushed and held the scroll in her hands. Her eyes, however, could not help but stare at the chest band and other items on the ground. Dressed in both a maid and a chef's outfit. Amazing, truly amazing. Little senior sister does indeed have a wild side in her heart. Ariel Mu hurriedly protected a pile of clothes, warning him shyly. If you look again, I will report to Little Elegant. Blue Autumn Yun smiled awkwardly and immediately shifted his gaze to the scroll. The Dan pills are still being refined continuously. Unconsciously, he had been reading for 4 or 5 hours straight. He stood up and stretched lazily. Although the content of potion refining is extensive and complicated, for him, it has all been deeply ingrained in his mind. And at this moment, Ariel Mu is still diligently studying potion refining, while the first senior sister is nowhere to be found, busy with who knows what. Blue Autumn Yun just walked out of the backyard. I smelled a refining Dan pill's aura. Following the scent through the corridor and courtyard, I arrived in front of a building. The sign hanging on the door read, "For Ion Refining Hall," in 3 large characters. Inside, there are more than 10 alchemy cauldrons, and many alchemists are manipulating flames to refine medicinal herbs. Blue Autumn Yun looked around and finally walked towards an unoccupied alchemy cauldron. The middle-aged alchemist next to him glared at him sideways, with a very arrogant tone. "You look unfamiliar. Are you a new alchemist?" Blue Autumn Yun glanced at him and calmly replied, "So what if I am not?" The middle-aged alchemist shouted loudly, "If you're not here for a reason, then get out." Lin Luo, upon hearing the commotion, hurried over. She immediately approached and asked, "What's wrong, Master Mingzhang?" And Mingzhang, relying on being the most powerful alchemist here, arrogantly tried to kick him out. Lin Luo quickly intervened to mediate. This young man is the junior brother of Miss and a distinguished guest of the Merchant Association. Mingzhang, hindered by the young lady's status, did not dare to continue to trouble further. Blue Autumn Yun was filled with anger. If Lin Luo hadn't arrived early, he would have been thrown into the furnace. The teenager was accidentally attracted by the fragrance of the medicine and arrived at the potion refining hall. But unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he was driven away arrogantly by the little people. Lin Luo hurried over when he heard the commotion. She suddenly had a headache. The two of them are a Missy's junior brother from the Merchant Association, honored guests. One is the highest level alchemist in the Merchant Association. It's not good to offend either of them. After hesitating for a moment, she could only lead Blue Autumn Yun to a secluded corner. She clasped her hands together and implored Blue Autumn Yun to be more accommodating. Blue Autumn Yun also didn't want to make things difficult for the junior steward. He waved his hand, telling her that she could refine wherever she wanted. Blue Autumn Yun carefully wiped the alchemy cauldron clean. But who knows that Mingzhang is like a dog, biting at whoever he catches. He can't stand even the slightest sound. Blue Autumn Yun gave him a sideways glance. A trace of spiritual energy circulated in her hand. If she wasn't afraid of causing trouble for the first senior sister, she would have thrown this guy into the furnace a long time ago. At this moment, several nearby alchemists couldn't help but be a little surprised. They were amazed to see this young man in front of them, so unskilled in his movements, yet able to produce flames directly on his first try. This remark immediately reached Mingzhang's ears. He loudly reprimanded the two of them. However, he still did not put Blue Autumn Yun in his eyes. Lin Luo was afraid that Mingzhang would continue to cause trouble, so she stayed here for the time being. Besides, she knew not everyone could become an alchemist. She just needed to wait for Blue Autumn Yun's fresh excitement to fade. At that time, she could comfort him and ask him to leave. After sensing the temperature of the flame, Blue Autumn Yun closed her eyes and recalled the steps of potion refining. Mind power gently moved several medicinal herbs to float above the alchemy cauldron. Then they crushed them. All of them were thrown into the furnace. Lin Luo just wanted to remind, but it was already too late. She is not an alchemist, but she does understand some basic knowledge of potion refining. It is best to refine refined herbs one after another. Focusing on the refining process is the key. It seems that this junior brother is not only inexperienced but also unaware of the most basic steps of potion refining. Under the scorching flames, several medicinal ingredients gradually begin to merge together. Soon, the shape of a Dan pill slowly emerges. Lin Luo was stunned to see that it had succeeded. It was unbelievable that so many medicinal ingredients had been successfully refined at once. The flames were very obedient under Blue Autumn Yun's control. Even his technique is elegant and beautiful. And on the other side, Mingzhang is unaware. According to his estimation, this young man either burns the medicine to ashes or it doesn't burn at all. There is even a possibility of the occurrence of the low-level operation of the blast furnace. Just because he dared to ignore himself earlier, Mingzhang was determined to use action to tell him. Not everyone can become an alchemist. Relying on his profound experience over the decades, a fragrant Dan pill slowly floated out. The surrounding alchemists were all attracted by the scent of the medicine. The first-rank high-quality Dan pills truly live up to Master Zhang's reputation. He is really amazing. Mingzhang was flattered by the praise, feeling refreshed and exhilarated. He felt like he had reached the pinnacle of his life. The young man successfully refined top-ranked Dan pills on his first attempt. However, he he was still subjected to strong ridicule from the alchemist. At the height of Ming Zhang's triumph, but suddenly found that Lin Luo was not looking at him. Instead, he has been focusing intently on Blue Autumn Yun. Ming Zhang crossed his arms and revealed a very mocking smile. Humph, let's see how long you can hold on. After a while, a group of alchemists also shifted their attention to Blue Autumn Yun. Even the smile on Ming Zhang's face gradually disappeared. He felt that this kid was having it a bit too easy. A few minutes later, a fresh medicinal fragrance accompanied by wisps of blue smoke wafted out from the alchemy cauldron. Blue Autumn Yun's fingers moved slightly. The Dan pills emitting a faint smoke fell into his hand. The alchemists present were all shocked. He actually succeeded? What a surprise! And to refine a high-quality potion on the first attempt is simply unbelievable. Is it only a high-quality Dan pills if Blue Autumn Yun casually glanced at it with drooping eyelids? Then he directly threw it out in front of everyone. It turned out that it's not top quality, so he had to refine it again. Lin Luo hurriedly caught the Dan pills. She held it in the palm of her hand, feeling so sorry. A high-quality, the first-rank Dan pills could be equivalent to half a month's salary for her. How could he just throw it away like that? Blue Autumn Yun turned around and took out a few more medicinal herbs from the medicine cabinet. Indifferently, she said, "What's the use of keeping a failed pill after refining it?" The surrounding alchemists were discussing heatedly. You told me that the high-quality Dan pills are failed pills. Ming Zhang was so angry that his teeth itched. To him, this was a blatant humiliation. A few minutes later, under the watchful eyes of everyone, a Dan pill with perfect luster and aura was born from the alchemy cauldron. You can tell at a glance that this is a top-quality Dan pill. He turned his head to look at the Lin Luo Merchant Association. If you don't mind, just take it. Lin Luo excitedly reached out his hands. Yes, 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 we want it. Blue Autumn Yun casually threw the Dan pills to her. Lin Luo even carefully and hastily collected them, unwilling to let others have another look. Without saying a word, she hastily ran to find the eldest miss. At the same time, Aurelia Luo was quietly watching Ariel Mu refining Dan pills in the backyard. Ariel Mu is also very serious. She knows that the potion refining competition this time is related to the condition of senior sister's grandfather. She must not be careless. And as long as she can refine one more high-quality Dan pill, the operation of the Merchant Association will be easier. She is very anxious hope that she can refine another high-quality. But she did not expect it to be just a very ordinary Dan pills. She was very afraid that her poor performance would delay senior sister's matters. She even suggested that senior sister could bring back the former chief alchemist. Little senior sister is focusing on potion refining to help the first senior sister fulfill her wish. But the success rate is still less than 60%. Under this helplessness, she proposed the idea of finding back the thoughts of that alchemist. Aurelia Luo shook her head slightly. With a gloomy face, she told her that after that alchemist found out about her grandfather's illness, he took the opportunity to pressure her into marriage, even using it as a threat. If she didn't marry him, he would leave the Merchant Association, and Ariel Mu was the best alchemist she could find at the moment. However, it's almost impossible to obtain that medicinal herb given the current situation. She helplessly slammed her hammer on the table. Is she really going to lose an important person? Memories came to mind involuntarily, and tears the size of beans fell from her eyes. Is she really going to submit to that guy? At that moment, Lin Luo ran over in excitement. She was panting heavily from exhaustion, which startled Aurelia Luo. She thought the Merchant Association had run into another problem. Lin Luo quickly adjusted her breathing and reassured her that the Merchant Association had stabilized. She took out a jade box from her bosom as she spoke. Aurelia Luo curiously opened it. A strong fragrance of Dan pills wafted out. The two of them widened their eyes in astonishment. These were actually top-quality Dan pills. Aurelia Luo immediately asked where she got it from. She pondered silently in her heart. Ming Zhang simply couldn't do it with his abilities. Could it be that Xiao Lu, who used to intimidate her, has come back again? And Lin Luo gets angry whenever he is mentioned. She is very certain that it's not that guy. Then she couldn't help but feel a little pleased, and told the two of them. The person who refined these Dan pills is none other than Blue Autumn Yun. The moment she said this, both of them were dumbfounded. After all, they had never heard that junior brother knew potion refining before this. Moreover, he was just consulting with Ariel Mu. How could it be him? Seeing that neither of them believed it, Lin Luo decided to take them over to have a look together. But they haven't gone inside yet.